You don't lose your desires because they are difficult. You lose them because, without realizing it, you leave the state where they were already real. Almost everyone fails at the same invisible point, not during imagination, but right after it. In this video, you'll discover the exact moment where manifestation quietly collapses, and why remaining is infinitely more powerful than trying. There is no effort here, no fighting reality, only consciousness occupying the correct place, until everything reorganizes on its own. Most people believe they fail because they don't imagine clearly enough. They think the image wasn't vivid, the feeling wasn't strong, the affirmation wasn't repeated enough. But that is not where the failure happens. The failure happens after the imagination, after the state is briefly touched, after the feeling is momentarily assumed. For a few seconds, sometimes minutes, the state is entered correctly, and then, without realizing it, it is abandoned. This abandonment is rarely dramatic. It doesn't feel like giving up. It feels like checking the phone, checking circumstances, checking reality. The moment you look outward to confirm what should already be settled inwardly, you have quietly stepped out of the state. This is the silent error. Remaining is not waiting. Waiting still carries doubt. Remaining carries identity. When you are something, you do not wait to become it. You simply live from it. Most people confuse persistence with mental effort. They think persistence means thinking about the desire all day long, replaying it, repeating it, pushing it. But that is not persistence. That is insecurity trying to compensate. True persistence is not repetition. It is not leaving the inner position you already occupy. You don't persist by doing more. You persist by not stepping out. And here is where anxiety is born. Anxiety does not come from lack of faith. It comes from excess control. Control is the attempt to hold the state together by force. Remaining is allowing the state to sustain itself naturally. Where there is control, there is fear of loss. Where there is remaining, there is normalcy. When something is truly yours, you don't grip it, you don't guard it, you don't monitor it, you rest in it. And this is why constantly looking for signs is so damaging. The consciousness that searches for confirmation is not resting in fulfillment. It is standing outside, observing lack. The state of fulfillment does not need supervision. It needs acceptance. You don't prove to yourself who you are, you simply are. And the moment you stop trying to confirm externally what must be resolved internally, something profound begins to shift. The work was never to do. The work was to remain. And remaining is not passive. It is deeply active, but internally quiet. This understanding alone dismantles years of struggle. And before we go further, pause here just for a moment, not as an interruption, but as recognition. If something in you already knows what I'm pointing to, if a part of you feels this truth landing softly but firmly inside, leave a simple declaration below. Comment, "I choose to remain." No explanation, no justification, just a quiet statement of identity, because from here forward, everything changes. An active desire is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not occupy your thoughts all day. An active desire occupies your identity, not your mind. If you find yourself thinking about your desire constantly, it is not because it is powerful. It is because it is unstable. The mind repeats what the being has not accepted. When something is true for you, it does not require constant remembrance. You do not remind yourself of your name. You do not affirm your existence. Likewise, a state that is truly assumed does not need continuous reinforcement. It sustains itself through naturalness. This is the difference between a living desire and a forced desire. Forced desire feels tense. Living desire feels quiet. Many people fear that if they stop thinking about the desire, it will disappear. But the opposite is true. Desire dissolves when it is watched too closely. Surveillance keeps consciousness rooted in absence. The desire that is truly active continues even while you laugh, work, rest, or forget about it entirely. Because it no longer depends on memory, it depends on position, and position defines reaction. When identity changes, reactions change automatically. Situations that once triggered anxiety no longer do. Threats feel neutral. Delays feel irrelevant. Not because you are suppressing emotion, but because the state you occupy no longer interprets reality the same way. This happens without effort, because effort belongs to the old state. Many attempt to occupy a state like wearing a costume. They perform confidence. They rehearse certainty. But a state cannot be performed. It must be accepted. It is not something you do. It is something you allow yourself to be. This distinction is subtle, but decisive. And once this difference is felt, your relationship with obstacles begins to change completely. Obstacles only exist for the old identity. They do not belong to the fulfilled state. The moment you fight an obstacle, you grant it authority. Fighting keeps consciousness bonded to the problem, not the solution. In the fulfilled state, nothing needs to be overcome, only experienced. Struggle reinforces separation. Remaining dissolves it. When the state changes, obstacles don't always disappear immediately, but they lose their meaning. Some fade, some rearrange, some transform into bridges, and all of this happens without force. Reacting affirms the old state. Observing preserves the new one. The consciousness that remains does not deny reality. It simply refuses to bow to it. It understands that the inner state is cause, and the outer world is delayed echo. This maturity of awareness leads us to a crucial signal, the one feeling that confirms whether you are truly remaining. The sign that the state has been occupied is not excitement. It is satisfaction, a calm sense that something is internally resolved, even when nothing externally confirms it yet. Satisfaction is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not celebrate prematurely. It settles. When satisfaction appears, the mind slows down. Urgency dissolves. The desire stops demanding attention. This is often misunderstood as indifference, but it is not indifference. It is completion. The desire still exists, but it no longer hurts. It does not pressure. It does not chase. It simply is. This feeling is the clearest signal that the consciousness has accepted the state. And when acceptance occurs, the desire remains active without effort. If satisfaction is absent, there is still negotiation happening inside, still fear, still control, and until the mind rests, the state cannot stabilize. Mental rest does not mean stopping thought. It means stopping interference. The mind continues functioning, but without adjusting the outcome. Rest is not passivity. It is internal trust. A seed is not watched after planting. It is entrusted. Many believe rest means forgetting. It does not. Rest means not touching, not revisiting the state out of insecurity. This rest cannot coexist with fear. Fear demands control. Control blocks rest. Understanding the law removes the need to monitor. And when rest is genuine, a gentle expectancy emerges. Not anxious waiting, but silent knowing. Something is unfolding, even unseen. This is the point where many become confused. They think imagination has stopped responding. But imagination has not failed. Pressure has silenced it. Imagination retreats when demanded. It opens when allowed. Trying to force feeling communicates distrust, and distrust collapses experience. Imagination responds to naturalness, not command. When you stop chasing sensation, sensation returns. And this understanding transforms how you experience time itself. The space between inner shift and outer change is not empty, it is reorganization. Nothing is wrong during the delay, everything is aligning. The greatest risk here is doubt, not because it delays, but because it makes you leave. Remaining during silence is spiritual maturity. When nothing happens outside, everything has already happened inside. And this silent loyalty prepares the consciousness for its final transformation. Fidelity is not repetition. It is internal coherence. It is reacting from the same identity, again and again, regardless of external provocation. Every reaction reveals where consciousness lives. Fear means you stepped out. Neutrality means you remained. This is not moral, it is mechanical. Silent fidelity does not seek recognition. It does not announce progress. It simply sustains identity, day after day. And when identity stabilizes, effort dissolves. The state becomes default, not remembered, lived. Anxiety disappears, not because circumstances changed, but because you did. Remaining stops being a practice. It becomes a way of being. At this point, techniques fall away. Methods fade. There is only alignment between inner position and outer life. Manifestation becomes inevitable, not dramatic, not explosive, natural. If you have reached this understanding, let it be anchored quietly. You may write if it feels right. I remain and allow consciousness to complete its work. Not to convince anyone, but to mark an inner decision. And here the promise from the beginning completes itself. You never needed to fight reality. You never needed to force belief. You only needed to stay. As Neville Goddard revealed, an assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact. And persistence was never effort. It was loyalty to being. If you feel called to deepen this way of living, there is a quiet invitation waiting, a 21-day journey designed not to force change, but to stabilize identity. You'll find it waiting in the description or pinned comment, and we return immediately to the silence where truth unfolds. And if this path resonates, if something in you recognizes itself here, then remaining connected is not subscribing to a channel. It is choosing to stay aligned with this awakening. Because this message is not finished, and neither are you.